Unchurned is presented by UpdateAI.
I feel like I've always been very insecure, but after a while, I don't know. I think I stopped giving a shit what other people thought about me, and I let my work speak for itself. And I know that, like, maybe I've not been perfect and I've not done everything right, but I've made an impact, whether it be on people or businesses. And so allow me to lean into that, right? And not feel bad for myself and all the things I didn't do or haven't done or haven't learned or haven't experienced, and rather say I've done some really cool shit and I can share that with the community and I can lean on that. And because of that, I could be great in other places. And my success is my success. I don't have anyone to thank for it. I worked my ass off to get to where I am, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Kristi, are you ready for this intro? We can redo it if I need to.
No, we're good.
I like it canceled.
I don't even know. I feel like what needs to happen for every podcast is Josh needs to say something totally out of left field and then hit record.
But I don't know that it's out of left field for Josh. That's the funny thing here. Like, I feel like we anticipate or expect him to say it, just not usually the first thing out of his mouth.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of CS and BS, an Unchurned podcast series sponsored by UpdateAI. I'm Josh Schachter. I am here with the renowned Kristi Faltorusso, CCO of Client Success, and that guy, John Johnson, Principal Customer Success Manager, Key Accounts at User Testing. Today, we are going deep into Kristi Faltorusso.
Let's not go that deep. Maybe just one deep.
We are going all the way into understanding you as a person, Kristi, you as a professional.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's gonna get hot and spicy. So with that being said, guys, we haven't prepped this at all, but I felt like, based on our relationships,
I feel like this needs no prep.
Go.
I feel like this needs no prep.
Kristi, where do we start? You guide us here.
Okay. Do we start from the beginning? Like, I don't know how deep do we want to go? Like, I said one deep,
when
you said two deep.
And women love each other.
Yeah. So we're starting with mommy and daddy.
A bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, let's start with that. Kristi, you know what? Let's start with mommy and daddy. I don't know if you can beat John's upbringing story, because that's the most that's a movie.
No,
but where do we start with you?
I don't think I can. Okay. Well, I don't have as interesting of a background as John Johnson. So I'm not going to try to compete. So I'll give you just a very basic, boring background, which basically just leads me right back to where I am today. So I was born and raised in Queens, New York.
Which borough or which neighborhood?
Okay. So, Howard Beach, for folks that are familiar with that area. So born and raised in Howard Beach, Ozone Park. My parents, after a couple of years, didn't want me to go to school in Queens. I had an older brother, so they were like, it was fine if they had a boy, stay in Queens. But if they had a little girl, my mom said, no. We're moving out of the boroughs and we're going to move to Long Island. So 5 years after my brother, I came along. They're like, okay, great. We're going to leave Queens. We're going to move to Long Island. So that's where we did. I started my preschool career and my life in Long Island.
Career.
My preschool. That's right. Did you not have a preschool career? My preschool was a career. I have to say that because I was also a baby model.
What?
And
really?
Wait, hold on. Listen,
now.
I was the baby model. No, you're not going to find it. But listen, I was also on the cover of the.
We're leaving it in the show notes. Kristi is going to provide us with photos.
I will
for the
give you a photo. I was on the cover of New York Magazine, and I was a baby model and did that for a while. I was on the Joe Franklin show. It was the 80s version of Letterman, Leno, and stuff like that. So Joe Franklin. But I was a very early baby model. I started modeling when I was under a year, and I did pageants and I did all of that stuff. So I had a preschool career, John Johnson. Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
And then my mom could not compete with stage moms. My mom is this little feisty Italian lady. She just is no nonsense. You haven't met my mom, Josh. She's just no nonsense. And she doesn't like these catty other women who thought that their children were better or cuter than me. And so she pulled me out because she just she probably would have just gotten to street brawls and stuff. It just would have gotten ugly. So yeah. I did not pursue a career in modeling, which is fine because I'm 5'4".
Kristi, what have you taken from your modeling experience into customer success?
That you probably shouldn't pose topless on the cover of a magazine.
Okay. Good advice.
As a baby model, it was, all right, this is 83. I'll find the cover. I'll give it to you guys. I was in a diaper. That was it. And the article was about single moms. Interestingly enough, it was a single working mother's article because back in the 80s, that wasn't really a big thing. So this is, yeah. So I feel I was on the cusp of some kind of
Empowerment.
power movement for
Yeah.
women and like, but I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, covered the magazine in a diaper, moved to Long Island. Great. Went to school like a normal middle class person that we didn't, it was fine. We had a very boring upbringing, boring life. The only interesting thing I'll give you is that I grew up in a community where my mother is Italian and my father is Puerto Rican. And this is the only interesting part of my upbringing.
And you are
we're not going to
feisty
dissect it.
thus.
Yeah.
Sure. But interestingly enough, my brother is 5 years older than me. He gravitated more towards the Puerto Rican side and like definitely very much represented himself as being like 100% Puerto Rican. And I very much represented myself as being 100% Italian. So like, it was very interesting how we both, growing up in the same house with the same parents, actually took on middle school and high school and like what we were like and how we built our own personas and stuff, because we very much just gravitated towards certain cultures, which said a lot about who we were as individuals. So I think that was interesting. We're not going to unpack all that today. That's like a whole like 4-hour therapy session, which I am still overcoming today. But so grew up in Long Island, went to all the boroughs, right? So I went away to college, went to all the boroughs. I lived in Brooklyn twice. I lived in Queens 3 different times, lived in Westchester. I didn't do Staten Island because nobody should. And I didn't live in Manhattan because I can't handle that borough. Like I'm not a city girl. So like, that's just not who I am. Eventually, after I got married, we found our way back to Long Island. So here I am back in my safe place.
Cool.
Wow. All right.
I have a very boring upbringing, John. Like I don't have the stories that you have. So I thought getting to my career would be more interesting than my basic boring upbringing.
No, but can I point something out that
You
I
can.
actually do love about you as an individual?
Yes.
I know that you are very career focused today, and I know that you care very deeply about what you do and who you do it with. But I love that you started like this whole thing as like my career in kindergarten, which no normal person would ever.
It was a preschool. I had a career.
Whatever said. Nobody would ever phrase it that way. But and I mean this in a positive way. Like I actually really like that you do look at your life all the way back to preschool, thinking about like the steps that it led you to today. So
well, listen, I think one of the interesting things that I like, I don't know that it's interesting. One of the things that I think has made me who I am today is my work ethic, because I've been working since I'm 8 years old. Mm-hmm. Like my parents owned a deli for as long as I can remember, different delis over the course of the years. They just retired 2 years ago, and they've worked 7 days a week for my entire life. And so growing up, we didn't have babysitters. I didn't have daycare. Like my parents couldn't afford for that, right? They were entrepreneurs. They didn't have, PTO. They didn't have days off. Like they worked 7 days a week. They worked every Christmas, every New Year's, every holiday. There were no days off. And so my babysitting and my daycare was they would go pick up the bagels and the pastries and stuff for the deli in the morning and leave me at the bakery. And so like my daycare was working in the bakery. So I would be making boxes. I'd be slicing bread. I'd be cleaning windows. I'd be helping people once I got old enough. So I started working at 8 years old. And by the time I was graduating high school, I was working 3-4 jobs in the summertime just to make money. And honestly, I think that has helped shape who I am and the work ethic and the drive that I have today. One, I saw my parents, right? Like they set a great example of like, you work hard for everything you have. Nothing is given to you. You want something, you have to work for it. And then being able to work the way that I did for as long as I did, I feel like that has just been ingrained in who I am. And so there are no handouts. There are no charities. You want something, you have to go put in the work and go get it.
Interesting from an outsider's perspective, having spoken to John a couple of weeks ago and speaking to you now, and about how your parents have impacted who you've become. With John, it was about relationship building and about creating that nuclear community, which is very much how John operates. And with you, we can see that grind and that grit and that hustle and that entrepreneurship, which came from your parents. What was your favorite deli sandwich?
Oh,
yeah, important.
Oh my gosh. Okay. For the record, though, I never worked in the deli. I was allowed to work in bakeries and pizzerias, but never the deli. They wanted something better for me. But if I had to pick my favorite sandwich, it was probably the Godfather, which is basically your classic Italian sub. So think salami, pepperoni, prosciutto, capicola, you have provolone, mozzarella, roasted peppers, Italian dressing, all in a hero, messy, sloppy, greasy, and delicious.
No comments.
I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah, that would be my favorite. All right, so do we want to get into the good stuff?
What did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh, okay. Maybe I am more interesting than I thought. Okay, no, I didn't want to be a baby model.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be like a
Ooh.
litigator. Like I wanted to be like a criminal
Ooh,
attorney.
crush.
I wanted to be
Yeah.
in a courtroom, and I wanted to be like fighting with people all damn day. And I'll tell you the only reason I did not pursue it, sadly, I was dating a guy in college. So as I was getting ready for like figuring out what I want to do after my bachelor's, and I told him I wanted to go to law school, and he came from a very old school European family, and like we thought we'd get married, and he very much probably just wanted me like home raising babies. And he said that you're born into families like that. You can't just go and build your career. He goes, no. He's like, you don't come from that background. Like you're not going to go become a lawyer. Like that's not who your family raised you to be, type of thing. I was like, what? I don't even know what to do with that. So I didn't pursue it, but that's really what
Because of what
he
he said?
Yeah. I mean, he was a very big part of my, and I thought I wanted to get married. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't need to go to like another 4 years of school, because as far as we were concerned, we were going to start our lives together, right? We were 21 years old, and I knew the entire course of my life at that point. So decided to forego any additional education because he said that I shouldn't or couldn't be an attorney.
What's this guy's name and number? Let's give him a call
We don't
right
need
now.
to
and
go
tell
find
him.
him.
right now.
He is
Oh,
living
I'd
in
love to.
Brooklyn. It's my understanding he's living in Brooklyn with a girlfriend. That's the extent
So
of
a
what I know.
downgrade from Miss.
I mean, it was
Faltorusso.
clearly a downgrade.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is his girlfriend a CS
Lawyer.
influencer?
She is not a CS influencer. She is also not an attorney. I actually
How great
don't
would
know
that be?
much
She's
about
like,
her.
she's a lawyer.
That would be amazing. No, I don't know much about her. They look happy in photos. I'm still friends with his sister-in-law, so on social media.
Good to know.
Good.
So, all right. So what'd you major in college?
I was public relations major. But I started off as a communications major, and I thought that was like too vague. It was like, well, okay, literally, what am I going to school for to communicate? Like, it didn't make any sense after a while. So after 2 years, I was like, I got to like find a concentration. So I went to school for public relations because I thought that could be a great career path for me. But when I was going to school, public relations, like you didn't have social media, you didn't have the depth of the internet. So I was like doing newspaper clippings. Like I was going through the newspaper to go look for these articles on things, cutting them out, writing up blurbs, giving them to publicists. Like it was boring, horrible work. And then if you were working with brands that were just like cringe, like you just had nothing exciting, like faking interest in something that wasn't interesting, it was too painful. So I hated the work I had to do. And I did a bunch of internships, and I did them for Nassau County. So I live on Long Island. One of the counties here is Nassau County. So I worked in politics for 2 of my internships. And I think that really probably sent me in a downward spiral around public relations. And so I decided that I will never do this, and I will never go to politics either.
What was the foray into customer success? What was the first role?
I tripped. No, I was working in marketing for the first decade of my career. So primarily like digital marketing, like SEO, PPC. 2 of the companies I worked at, I was actually using a product called BrightEdge, and it was helping with my search engine optimization efforts. And I loved it. It like made me like 10x more powerful as an individual because of all the things it could help me do. And I basically, after working with them at the second time, I told anybody who worked there, hey, listen, you guys should be opening up a New York office because this is where all the search agencies are. All the digital agencies are in New York. So you guys should have a presence here. Your number one competitor is in New York. And I'm like, listen, if you open an office in New York, please hire me and I will come work for you. And they did. And I did. So they opened up a New York office shortly after some initial conversations I had. I don't think that they opened an office because I told them to. I'm pretty sure they made a good business decision, but when they
most
did,
executives,
they did bring me on board.
for that matter, most executives do things because you tell them to.
Maybe now, definitely not then. So in all fairness,
but you started as a CSM though, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. I went. Oh yeah. So like I was leading teams. I was like a director. I had like teams of people under me, and like I was a GM at one point for a publishing company. Like I actually had built up my career pretty like nicely. And I was on a path. I thought I was on a path to becoming like a CMO or a chief digital officer. Like that was my career ambition. I was like, I'm going to the top in marketing, loved it. And then I made this pivot into customer success via BrightEdge. And I'll tell you, when I started, I didn't even know what SaaS stood for. Like, talk about uncomfortable. Like that transition into tech was brutal for me because I just didn't know what I was doing. I was a subject matter expert, and my customers got more value from me than probably anybody else in the organization. But it was hard for me. It was a big learning curve.
Then you went to IntelliShift.
No, I did not. I had like 4 jobs
you went to
before
Better
that.
Cloud. Better Cloud.
Better Cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sisense first, right?
Sisense first.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you, John. Yes.
I didn't
was like,
scroll
wait,
down
no,
on the LinkedIn.
I was like, no. Yeah, so I did I think it's worth noting, like I did do a long time at Bright Edge. I did 5.5 years there, and I went from an individual contributor to a VP of customer success and practice development. So I did grow my career there, and I do feel like I got a PhD there. And in fact, if you go look at a lot of the folks like Amelia Danzica and others, like we all worked at Bright Edge, and then everyone that worked there basically went off to go do really impressive things with their career. I think it's been a huge launch pad for a lot of CS thought leaders and just fantastic people, individuals. But then I left because I was like, okay, I've hit my ceiling. There's probably no more growth here for me. And I did want to go like build something, right? I got to watch this organization get built at Bright Edge, and it was so cool. But now I wanted to do it. I wanted to see, like, can I go build this on my own? So I went over to Sisense. And it was an awesome opportunity right at the time. Like they were blowing up in the BI space. They were doing OEM. So it was like embedded analytics, super cool. You could white label it. I was like impressed. Plus the company was super cool. It was an Israeli organization. So culturally, I liked the idea of like working with different people. I'd have a team in Israel. But the reality of it is when I got there was two things that just didn't click for me. The first was it was a super technical product. I mean, like really technical. And my persona of the customers I was working with, they were like engineers, right? Like they were like brilliant but technical people. And as a customer success leader, not coming from that world, I had a really tough time connecting with them. And that was part of my job, right? As a customer success leader, you got to be able to connect with your customers and help sell value. I felt like I shouldn't be talking to my customers ever because I don't really know what they're doing. And so it made me feel less valuable in the scope of my role. And then the second thing, honestly, everything was built. Like I worked for this awesome leader there, Gali Qatar, and she's doing wonderful things now at another company. And she was great to work for, but she built everything. So they didn't really need me to build anything. It was kind of like, go just execute on this strategy that's already been put in place to go do this work. And that didn't excite me. Right. So like I wanted to like put my name on something. I wanted to go make an impact. And I felt like just doing the work that somebody else built wasn't that for me. So my tenure there was short-lived. It was like just under a year. I had a great time while I was there. I made a lot of really great friendships. I did get to go to Tel Aviv a bunch of times. And I think that was probably the coolest part of my job, is being able to go to Israel. Probably not a place I would have ever gone by myself. Just like I don't travel much. So I probably would have never gone there. And it was just gorgeous. And it was really wonderful building all those relationships. But after that, that's when I went to Better Cloud. Josh, so now
gorgeous. I mean, you went clubbing in Tel Aviv.
I did not go clubbing in literally. Okay, I get the worst jet lag of anybody, so there was no clubbing. It was like basically like stay up long enough to get through the day to then fall asleep again because I didn't know what day or what time it was. So that was painful, but super cool experience. So left there because I was like, you guys don't need me here. This is like cool, but I'm not the right leader for this business. So got to do some cool stuff. I did learn a bunch in the year, but it was time for me to go take on something else. So
and then you went to Better Cloud, then you went to IntelliShift, and now you're at client success. I'm just fast forwarding, Kristi. All impressive. Great, awesome.
Wonderful. You're great. We love you.
Yeah. Goodbye. So I want to go into like, there's the professional corporate, salaried Kristi Faltorusso. Mm-hmm. And then there's the KF emblem on your mic stand right now, Kristi Faltorusso.
And all the advisor roles and all the founding roles and all the...
And literally being the number 2 influencer in CS.
I know. I'm like never going to be number 1. It's like so sad.
No.
That's right. We'll take care of it.
We've got an over under on the number of years Nick has left in CS. So you're on the horizon for being the number 1 spot.
Good.
So like where did, and I remember when I first met you like 2.5 years ago, you were so excited to show me like your Google spreadsheet files, or it was Excel files of like all of the playbooks that you'd come up with, and you were sharing them with people and stuff like that. Where did that originate? Where did that drive to create this content? Because I don't think you initially did it to become like the queen bee of customer success. I think it came from a place of you just had like a passion and you were just helping people. Like, where did all this come from?
Okay, so like I am driven by success. Like I want to be wildly successful, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that'll look like 5 years from now, but I do feel like I'm driven by success. And for me, it looks and feels very different. But when I originally started doing anything with the community, this is like 2017. Okay. So this is like before the pandemic, before it was cool to be on LinkedIn talking about work that you're doing. And I didn't have access to customer success professionals, right? Like I was in New York. I wasn't in Silicon Valley. So I wasn't in San Francisco. I was not, I didn't have the network that those leaders had, right? Like they all were entrenched in like where customer success started. And I didn't have that. So I used LinkedIn as a mechanism to get access to people and to connect. So I started very early. And I think it's just because the time of when I started, it allowed me, it's like kind of like starting your 401k when you're 21 versus starting it when you're 40, right? That snowball effect. So because I started earlier, I was able to build a network that was larger and larger. And I originally just built it sharing, right? Because I was just like, I'm just going to be a selfless sharer and just give everything out because only good things can come from that, right? I'm either going to learn that what I'm doing isn't right and that there's other ways to do it, or I'm going to help somebody who's trying to figure it out on their own. So I figured it is win-win regardless. And I got a lot of backlash. I will tell you, like people are like, why would you do that? You're basically creating your own competition when it comes to finding jobs, when it comes to doing work, right? Like this is all your IP.
Why did you do that? Was it because you had these things lined up to help yourself? Like these were your own internal tools? Or was it because
I mean, this was all stuff I built, but like at the end of the day, I'm not threatened by other people trying to help. Like trying to help other people. I wasn't worried that they were going to go take my IP and go build their own careers and compete with me. I don't care. At the end of the day, like I believe that my experience is what affords me the opportunities I have, not a tool, not a spreadsheet, not a Word doc, right? So I can give all these things to people, but to me, it's like I don't feel threatened by sharing knowledge. I feel like it just helps us all get better and it helps elevate our industry.
So you were just like, I've got these templates, I've got these tools I've built over time. Why not help others and just kind of see where it leads? I mean, I'm trying to tie together the piece of like, you've always been driven by success. Was there a goal in mind of like, maybe this will lead into something where I can have a consulting business later on in the next 5-10 years, or maybe like, no,
I don't even think that that's my path now. I think the big thing there was like, share with other people because they're either going to validate me and tell me that what I'm doing is right. They're going to teach me something new, or right. Like maybe it helps guide me. I don't know. Like for me, it was more about like, what can I get from sharing? But I knew it was mutually beneficial. If I was sharing out, they benefit. But if I'm learning new things, then I'm winning too. And that's all it was.
What have you learned? Like, how have you improved and grown in your own ways through the experiences of sharing all your content and being at center stage?
So at the end of the day, listen, I've worked at 5 different companies, which have 5 different ways of doing customer success, but I haven't done everything and I've not done it every single way. So as far as I'm concerned, every time that I connect with somebody else and I learn something that they've done, or maybe they've taken what I've done and applied it a different way, like I'm learning, I'm still growing every single day. So for me, it's, I've used my sharing as a mechanism to connect with people and to learn more.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I have seen in you're an advisor to 6 or 7 different organizations and platforms and groups and communities and things like that. I think a lot of times people tend to just want to learn how to be a leader in their org, and it silos them. Like it absolutely silos them. I'm a big fan of learning in public. I'm a big fan of building in public. And I think you've done an exceptional job of, hopefully Dave agrees and everybody within your org agrees, that these things that you're doing outside, yes, there's positive for the community, but also it's given a perspective that is different than what is inside client success and inside, the groups that are sitting in those boardrooms and sitting in those meetings, right? So continually bringing these perspectives. I like the way that you phrase that too, is that you don't know everything, right? There's things that you've never experienced that other people have, that you now have the ability and the willingness, because you've given so much, to learn from. And okay, all right. Skippy with the applause. Anyways,
well done. What impresses me about you, Kristi, is you've got this backbone. You are confident and you are not afraid to speak up, which I'm sure has to do again with that Italian Puerto Rican upbringing. But like, even who were we talking to a couple of weeks ago, and they made I was listening to the podcast after we recorded it, where this person.
Oh, are we supposed to listen to these?
We're supposed to.
Oh.
It was John. It was your friend. I'm so sorry for blanking on her name.
Oh,
Erica.
Yes.
Yeah. Erica Ackroyd.
Ackroyd.
Ackroyd. Okay. And she was talking about like how she had gone up against her peers and her friends for this position, and they had promoted her and not her other peers, and how she was like, sorry guys, I got it. And you're like, you're not sorry. Like, hey, I'm a badass and I performed and I hustled for this role, and I earned this role, and now let's work together. But it was a very different perspective. And I feel like that anecdote epitomizes like what I see from you as far as like, and I hate to use this term because it's cliche or whatever, but like leaning in, right? Like really like you lean forward into these things. Where did that come from?
That's new. Okay. So in full transparency, like I feel like my husband, Anthony, has spent our entire relationship coaching me and like helping me develop my voice and my confidence, because he believes in me so much and he knows I'm smart. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. But again, remember, I told you when I got into Bright Edge, I didn't know what SaaS stood for, right? Like I didn't know anything. So I felt like at a complete disadvantage. Plus I was working alongside of people that went to like Harvard and Stanford and Duke and all these great places. And I went to like a local university on Long Island. So I feel like I've always been very insecure, but after a while, I don't know. I think I stopped giving a shit what other people thought about me, and I let my work speak for itself. And I know that like maybe I've not been perfect and I've not done everything right, but I've made an impact, whether it be on people or businesses. And so allow me to lean into that, right? And not feel bad for myself and all the things I didn't do or haven't done or haven't learned or haven't experienced, and rather say, I've done some really cool shit and I can share that with the community and I can lean on that. And because of that, I could be great in other places. And my success is my success. I don't have anyone to thank for it. I worked my ass off to get to where I am, and I'm pretty proud of that. Now, do I still have a lot of work to do? Absolutely. But I feel like I'm proud of where I've come from. I'm proud of what I've done, and I'm going to continue to keep hustling until I get to where I want to go.
Love it.
That's awesome.
So if this is Kristi 2.0 or whatever 0.0 that we're talking to, what's the next version? What's the 3.0 of Kristi Faltorusso?
Well, you'll just have to follow me on LinkedIn to find out.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. We're going to wrap it with that, folks. Kristi, thank you for what you do to the community. Do for the community.
Yeah. What you inflict upon us all.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But thank you. I think you set a wonderful example for many others who have followed in your footsteps and continue to do so. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Kristi 3.0 as soon as I subscribe to your newsletter.
Yeah,
and
just
all
sign
the
up to my website, KristiFaltorusso.com. Follow me on LinkedIn, like and subscribe.
Like and smash that subscribe button.
Hit that bell.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.